tuned in to the Andrew Lawton Show.
I want to turn our attention to a controversy in British Columbia where a city council is reeling after people in the community were exposed to heterodox views. The setting for this is the City of Quesnel, where the mayor's wife decided to hand out to some people copies of a book that was, as it happened, published by True North. The book is called Grave Error. It was it was edited by CP Champion and Professor Tom Flanagan. It features a number of essays from some incredibly esteemed scholars and contributors that are talking about Canadian history, a version of Canadian history that you aren't really getting, even though it is a version that is supported by volumes and volumes of evidence. So it's put in a book that was a bestseller on Amazon, has sold thousands of copies, but has been blacklisted by several libraries, and as it happened, is now facing this ridiculous investigation, inquiry, apology by a city council. Tom Flanagan joins me now. Tom, always good to talk to you. Thanks for coming on, and congratulations for all the success of the book, too.
Well, thanks, Andrew.
So what on earth happened in this British Columbia community?
Well, the mayor's wife, her name is Pat Morton. I don't know what her professional designation is, but her business is filing tax returns. She read the book, she liked it, so she bought 10 copies and was giving them to people or places where she thought it might do some good. There are 4 small Indian bands in the area around the town of Quesnel, and they heard of what was going on, that she was giving out these books. So they sent a letter to city council, said they wanted to meet to discuss the book. So they showed up, and basically they bullied the council into voting to condemn the book, even though none of them had ever read the book. They all said, no, we haven't read it. First time we've seen it, but we'll vote to condemn it anyway. Then the same thing happened with the school board. Pat had given a copy to the school board. All this took place without the knowledge of myself or any of the other authors. She just did it on her own. So the school board voted to condemn it as well. Still don't know if anybody's actually read the book out there.
Yeah, they all, I mean, even some of the comments you hear are basically from people saying, well, I started reading it and I didn't like it, or, oh, I heard so-and-so said, this was offensive. And, when I first heard of this controversy, distributed in the community, it sounded like someone had bought the entire inventory on Amazon and was just going out distributing them door to door. And then you learn, as you've just shared, that a woman who liked the book bought a handful of copies and handed them out. And I still fail to see how this is a city council matter.
Well, it's because she's the wife of the mayor, I guess.
Which has no official, there's no First Lady of Quesnel. She has no official status with the city, as I understand it.
Of course not, but they claim that because she's married to the mayor that it makes a difference. I should say, in passing, that the whole ruckus has been a boost for our sales of the book. You can track not the actual number of sales, but you can track your ranking on the Amazon website of where you stand relative to other books. And we shot up over 90 places in the books category once this happened. We had slipped down below 100, and the next day we shot up to 7. So it's been great for us.
Well, fair enough. You can embrace the silver lining of that, Tom. But let me ask you about kind of the context here, because one of the terms that has been used in coverage of this even, and certainly CBC's narrative on what happened in Quesnel, is that this is residential school denialism. And they basically make claims about the book, or they make claims about what the book says that the book doesn't actually say.
No. Much of the book is devoted to examining the announcement that came out of Kamloops, the notorious announcement about 215 unmarked graves. We also look at a couple of other similar announcements as well, like the one from Blue Quills. There have been multiple from Blue Quills, but we looked at one of them that was available at the time, and some others as well. Trying to look at actual evidence. The first thing to to understand is that there is no physical evidence of unmarked graves. The only evidence, if you could call it that, is the results of ground penetrating radar, which at best can show soil disturbances or soil anomalies. It doesn't tell you what's there. In order to know what's there, you have to dig. And there have been a few digs around the country, most recently at Pine Creek Reserve, on the border between Saskatchewan and Manitoba, in the basement of the Mission Church there. Didn't find anything. None of the digs have turned up any, no bones, no shrouds, no caskets, nothing that could be linked to a burial. So absolute absence of physical evidence. I'm not saying that no child was ever buried near a residential school. You can't say that, but I think the burden of proof is on the other side to say, yeah, there were burials, and they haven't come forward with any evidence that is at all persuasive. But they just demand that you believe on the basis of a combination of ground penetrating radar and memories. At this point, these memories are really quite old. Schools, the last school shut down in 1996, but most of them were shut down long before that. So when you're hearing memories, they're usually actually something that somebody heard from his father or his grandfather. It could be 60, 70, even 100 years old. So they're demanding that you believe this, and if you don't believe it, you're called a denialist. But we're not denying anything. We're just saying, show us the evidence. So that's a big part of the book, is looking at these claims about unmarked graves. Now, related to that is the claim about missing children. This is a related claim. These unmarked graves supposedly hold the bodies of the missing children. But just as there are no unmarked graves, there are no missing children. The children were all carefully accounted for in the schools. They had to be, because the government was paying a per capita payment to the religious bodies that ran the schools, and the government wasn't going to fork over money without some evidence that the kids were there. So, and the churches weren't going to let the kids go missing because they needed to proffer the evidence so they could continue to get the money. So there are no missing children. Again, these allegations have been made. Excuse me, Andrew, I'm getting over a cold, and it's not the greatest, but I'm doing the best I can. Did children die at schools? Well, absolutely. Most of this took place before there was a cure for tuberculosis, and tuberculosis was rampant. Not only, well, in all of Canada, actually, but particularly in Native communities. It was probably worse on the reserves than in the schools, but it was bad enough in the schools. And yes, kids died, but there are death certificates you can get from the Department of Vital Records of the provinces, and they show cause of death and where the child is buried. So, there are no missing children. Now, there are some records that are missing in the sense that over the course of 150 years, sometimes not everything gets kept, but basically you can see what was going on. And once streptomycin was discovered, then the death rate cratered phenomenally. Now, sadly, occasionally a kid would die. There'd be accidents, skating on thin ice. Different things can happen over the course of 150 schools over 150 years. There's going to be some tragic accidents, but there's no mass disappearance of children. So much of the book is, kind of prosaic, looking at the documentary evidence about these claims of unmarked graves and missing children. Another claim is that children were forced to attend. Well, again, this doesn't hold water. Indian children were not required to attend any school until 1920, an amendment to the Indian Act at that time. Prior to that, all attendance was voluntary. And after 1920, attendance at a residential school was required only if there was no day school convenient, in a convenient location.
Just to bring it back, Tom, to the to the issues that sort of have come from you raising these points is that people are not willing to engage in a debate on the facts. They're not willing to engage in a debate on the merits, because I mean, you're a political scientist by training, and you have quite a lengthy career in academia. I mean, I would assume that your hope would be that you put a book like this out, and if people dispute it, they publish their own book, they publish their own response. And we're seeing now increasingly that people don't want to do that. Instead, they say, how dare you? And without actually arguing with a single premise or conclusion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very true. It's sad. The contributors to the book are excuse me, people whose careers involve dealing with facts, retired professors in various fields like history or political science or sociology, lawyers, judges, journalists. That's the common denominator for almost all the contributors, is a focus on fact. And that's what we've tried to do in the book. But what's happening in Quesnel is a refusal to look at facts and just to try and shout down the book before anybody gets a chance to read it. So,
well, I'm glad that it's been beneficial on the sales front at least. So a bit of I don't know, maybe a bit of a Pyrrhic victory for the council in terms of winning there. Well, I appreciate you straining your voice to join us today, Tom. Always good to talk to you. Drink some nice honey and lemon tea or something, and hopefully you recover. But appreciate your time as always.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to The Andrew Lawton Show. Support the program by donating to True North at www.tnc.news.